Ms. Buharin?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Mr. Cruz?
Yes.
All right, you may put your hands down. Before we do this proceeding or conclude this hearing, it is required that I share with you and remind you that you each individually have a constitutional right and protection, or a group of rights and protections that I will now discuss with you. First of all, each of you individually in your own case, you have the right to remain silent. That means you don't have to make any kind of statement. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to answer any questions. You cannot be required to submit written paperwork that has your signature, especially papers that have a confession or admission to wrongdoing. You understand you have that right, Mr. Cruz?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Buharin?
Yes, sir.
Good. You each have the individual right to a jury trial. That means that each of you has the right with your attorney and with the state's attorney to select 6 jurors from a random pool. It'd be about 24, 30 people. You would select from that group 6 people to hear the evidence in this case, the testimony, watch videos or whatever is involved in your case. You understand? And that 6 people, those 6 people would decide whether you're guilty or not guilty if you chose to have a jury trial. Do you understand you have that right, Ms. Buharin?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Cruz?
Yes, sir.
All right, you each have the right to confront witnesses. Now, what that means is that each of you individually, with your attorney, would have the right to cross-examine, question, or challenge any witness who would testify in your case, either for you or against you. You understand you have that right, Mr. Cruz?
Yes.
Ms. Buharin?
Yes, sir.
Now, you also have the right, it's called the right of appeal. Basically, what that right is, it involves the official record of this case. We have a lady by the name of Kayleen Rivera. She's a certified court reporter. She is making an official record of this proceeding. You would have the right by yourself or your attorney by himself or herself, and the 2 of you together with your attorneys individually, that is, you would have the right to demand that a higher court review the official record, the evidence, the testimony, everything, for whatever challenge you wanted to make. That's called the right of appeal. You'd have to follow the rules on time limits and the type of documents that you submitted. But that's basically the right of appeal. Each one of you has that right. And so, do you understand that you have that right, Mr. Cruz?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Buharin?
Yes, sir.
Also, finally, each of you, and in your individual cases, the state also have the right to demand that this proceeding be heard in the open public courtroom. Now, this is being done by video conference instead because of the COVID pandemic. To do this, it requires you to consent to the video conference. And in fact, the video conference is being streamed on YouTube. So anyone in the public can see and hear this proceeding. But you could still demand that this be done in the open public courtroom. Do you understand you have that right? And so does the state, Mr. Cruz?
Yes.
Ms. Buharin?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, we're going to show you some papers. I'm going to start off with Mr. Cruz, and then Ms. Buharin, I'll do these with you individually also. But I want you to listen to this. In each of your individual cases, the documents that are being submitted to the court will have what I call at the top, just like you see it here, identifying information. In your case, Mr. Cruz, it has at the top the case number 637481. It says the state of Texas versus Marcelo Cruz in County Court at Law number 5, Bexar County, Texas. That part of the document, on all the documents except one, will have essentially that information. Then below that identifying information, it'll have the title of the particular document or paper. This one is called State's Consent to Video Conference. The title will be in all capitals, nice and big like you see it, and in bold print. So it's nice and dark, it sticks out. This particular one, as I mentioned earlier, both you and the state have the right to demand that the hearing be done in open public courtroom. This one says that the state is agreeing to do this on video conference, and it is signed by Caitlin C. Morgan, the prosecutor, on behalf of the Bexar County District Attorney. Did you understand that document, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now the document being shown to you, the second one, with, again, repetition of the identifying information. The title is Discovery Acknowledgement. You'll see the first line talks about a particular law that requires the state of Texas in a prosecution to share with you and acknowledge all the receipts, documents, papers, videos, whatever is involved in your case that is relevant evidence. They have to share it with you and make access to you and your attorney. This document is signed by your attorney and the state's attorney. They both are saying, yes, that law has been obeyed. You see the scroll, please. You see the signatures of your attorney and the state's attorney right there in front of you.
Yes.
Now, the document in front of you now is, again, the identifying information. It is on that document. This one says defendant's consent to video conference. That's yours. That's where you're saying, yes, I agree to the video conference instead of demanding the open public courtroom. Is that your signature there on the left side looking at it?
Yes, it is.
Okay, any questions about that?
Mm-mm.
All right. Now we have a document with the open, the identifying information stamped on it or typed on it. This one says defendant's waiver of constitutional rights and court's admonitions. Mr. Torres, did you carefully review with your client this particular document?
We did, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Cruz, did you understand this document? It's got 3 sentences at the top. Ultimately, it says you're charged with harassment. And then what is this, the third sentence there? It says, in this cause, I hereby enter a plea. What does that say? Read that.
No content.
Read the whole sentence, sir.
No content to the following, I can't see, allegation
Harassment.
and the harassment.
All right. And then the rest of it is divided into 15 separate parts, numbered separately. Number 1 talks about the punishment you can get for this particular offense. And there's a vertical stack of boxes, and next to each one, it's got a punishment that it talks about. There's only one that's checked on there. What is it? What does it say?
0 to 2,000 and 0 to 180 days in jail.
Right. That's a Class B misdemeanor. Now, there's a couple of things I want to remind you of very quickly. One is that you're making a deal with the state. As the judge, I have the authority and I'm required to say yes or no. I can accept your deal or I can reject it. I can also give you a punishment that's greater than what you agreed to. If I reject your deal or if I give you a punishment that's greater than what you agreed to, either case, the law would allow you to start all over again. Is that understood?
Yes.
All right. Now, where were you born, sir?
San Antonio, Texas.
All right. Number 8 talks about that, and the documents and the papers in this case will show that you are a U.S. citizen. Did you sign this document? Is that your signature?
Yes.
Do you have any questions about this document?
No.
All right. The next document you're going to see This one is one that I make a certification. It repeats again the identifying information. Then it talks about the right of appeal. There are a vertical stack of little boxes, and next to each one, there's a description or a statement concerning the right of appeal. The fifth box, which is the one shown to you right now at the top of the page, in there, I, as a judge, I certify that this is a plea bargain case and the defendant has no right of appeal. Did you understand that?
Yes,
And you have signed that document. I see your signature there at the bottom of this page.
correct.
All right. We're going to reload the computer a little bit.
I get copies of all this or no?
That's up to your attorney. You and he can have whatever copies you want. What you have in front of you now is called a plea agreement. Another way of saying that is this is the deal. This is the one that you agreed to. This one has identifying information, your name and the case number. Then it starts off with two boxes. The first two will be checked off. The first one talks about that you have had explained to you and discussed the right to remain silent. The second box is what I told you a while ago. This one identifies you as a U.S. citizen. Now, the next section, it says defendant's acknowledgements. That section has 5 vertical boxes, and each one has a check mark on it. It talks about your constitutional rights and protections, and that it repeats it again. This is about the second and third time that we talk about constitutional rights and protections because they're particularly important. Did you go over this with your attorney?
Yes, I did.
Did you understand it?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any questions about this particular section?
No.
Okay. Now, this next section, it repeats what you're charged with. Bottom right hand of the document, as you look at it, it says harassment. To that charge, how do you plead, sir? It's down there, bottom left.
No contents?
Very good. A no contest plea, just so you know and understand, is considered a guilty plea. Is that clear?
Yes.
And that alone is sufficient for me to find you guilty. Is that clear?
Yes.
All right. Now, you are ordered to appear within 7 days in the offices of County Court of Law number 5. There, you're going to have to, the clerks and the bailiff will help you put your thumbprint on the documents in this case that require your thumbprint. Is that understood?
Yes.
All right. Now, based on your charge of, on your plea of nolo contendere or no contest, I find you guilty. You're sentenced to 2 days Bexar County Jail, a fine of $0 plus court costs. You are given credit for time served, time and money run concurrently. The court finds that you have satisfied this judgment already. You've already paid your dues on it. In addition, case number 1989134-1 is taken in consideration and hereby dismissed. So on this case, in that case, 1989134-1, these cases, you no longer owe anything to the state or to this court. And you are hereby released on this particular case and on the one I just talked about. You have any questions, Mr. Cruz?
No, thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Torres, any questions?
No, Your Honor, I'll just wait for the copies to come through the email again, Judge. I appreciate it.
All right. Be aware that Mr. Cruz wants copies of your paperwork, so make sure that he gets them.
Correct, Judge.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You are excused. Don't forget to come in and put your thumbprint on, Mr. Cruz.
How soon can I get there? Like today? Okay.
Thank you.
I think we have all the papers here, don't we, Patty?
Yes, sir. Your
All right,
Honor,
yes,
I was
yes,
going to
sir.
remind you about Efrain Torres. He was going to try and get his client in.
Ya voy para allá. Ya salí. Acabo de salir.
All right. Ms. Buharin,
Yes, sir.
did you see how we went through all these papers?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're gonna do the same thing with you, ma'am. In just a moment, when I catch up with myself here. All right, continuing on the record on 659-172. Ms. Buharin, I have talked to you about your different rights and constitutional protections. The first one we talked about, or one of them that we talked about, was the right to demand that your hearing be an open courtroom, public open courtroom. Because we're doing this by video conference, you and your attorney have signed a document that's titled State's Consent to Video Conference. I would remind you that at the top of this document, in all the documents with one exception, is going to have identifying information. In this case, it's case number 659-172, the state of Texas versus Esmeralda Buharin in County Court Law number 5, Bexar County, Texas. That will be repeated on the different documents. This particular one, as on the others, the title of the document will follow that identifying information. This one says State's Consent to Video Conference. You have reviewed this with your attorney, and in this particular case, the state is saying that they agree that this will be done by video conference. You see that one there signed by Mr. Andrew Harris Edelman?
Yes, sir.
Any questions about this document?
No, sir.
All right, there'll be one for you in a moment. The next one is called Discovery Acknowledgement. That particular document talks about a law, and you can see it right there, right after the title, Article 39.14 of the Code of Criminal Procedure. That's the name of the law, or the title of the law, and what it requires is the state to share with you, acknowledge, and give you access to all the different evidence in the case so that you and your attorney can make an informed and intelligent decision. This particular one is signed by your attorney and the state saying, hey, this law has been obeyed. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
All right, you have any questions?
No, sir.
The next document is yours. It is your document where you say, yes, I agree to the video conference instead of the open courtroom. You see where you signed?
Yes, sir.
Is that a signature there on the left side?
Yes.
Oh, are you sure? All right, I'm giving you a hard time. All right, the next document, again, identifying information is repeated. This one's titled Defendant's Waiver of Constitutional Rights in Court's Admonitions. This particular one says that, what's the second sentence there? I understand that. What does it say?
In this cause, I am charged with the following offenses: driving while intoxicated.
And then the sentence after that, what does it say?
In this cause, I hereby enter a plea of nolo contendere for the following allegations: driving while intoxicated.
Okay, so you understand what that says, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Ms. Middleton. Sonny?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Did you carefully review this entire document with your client?
I did.
There are 15 separate parts that are numbered. The very first one talks about the range of punishment. Ms. Buharin, what is the range of punishment applicable to your case?
It'd be from $0 to $200 in the fine and 72 hours to 180 days in jail.
Okay, you need to read that again.
The From $0 to $200 fine and 72 hours.
It's 2,000, ma'am. You keep
Oh,
saying
2,000.
200.
Pardon me. From $0 to $2,000 in fine and 72 hours to 180 days in jail.
Very good. Now we got it right. The rest of this talks about different rights and protections and different things that are very important. One thing I want to remind you of is that as the judge, I have the authority and the responsibility to say yes or no to your deal. I have to do that. And if I refuse your deal, or if I give you a punishment that's greater or heavier than what you agreed to, then in that case, the law would allow you to start all over again. Did you see that? It's basically in number 6.
Yes, sir.
Did you know that? All right, number 8 talks about whether you're a citizen or not. Where were you born?
Bakersfield, California, sir.
All right, I find the papers will reflect that you are a U.S. citizen. Do you have any questions about this document?
No, sir.
And you did sign it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I will be signing these documents myself. They'll be officially part of the record. The document I'm showing you now, again, starts off with the identifying information. It says here, the trial court's certification of defendant's right of appeal. This is where I tell you something about your right of appeal. There's a vertical stack of boxes next to each one. There is a different statement about the right of appeal. The one that applies to you is the 5th one. It'll be shown to you at the top of the page. That 5th one says that the court, I certify that this is a plea bargain case and the defendant has no right of appeal. Did you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you signed it at the bottom there, you and your attorney both?
Yes, sir.
You have any questions about this?
No, sir.
All right. Now, at this point, this document repeats the identifying information. The title of the document is Application for Judge-Ordered Community Supervision Probation. This one, did you review it carefully with your attorney?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what you're telling me under oath by signing this application?
That I will do the community service as followed.
Okay. And it also tells me that you've never been convicted of a felony, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
And that's all of that is true?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. Now, probation is a written, legal, binding agreement between you and this court. Something that you need to know very carefully is that you will be required to live up to some certain supervisory conditions.
Okay.
Because you're entering a plea, there will be a punishment announced, including jail. But the jail part will be suspended or probated so long as you live up to the conditions of supervision. If you fail or refuse to do that, then the state can ask me to give you official notice, bring you in for a hearing. And if the evidence supports it, I'll be able to put you in jail at that point. Do you understand?
Yes, sir, I understand.
It'll require you to obey the conditions 100%. All right. Any questions about this application and what probation is all about?
No, sir.
Okay. The next document is called a personal data sheet. That's the only one that doesn't have all that repetition of all the information, because the fact is, this is all the information on you in particular. And that's part of the papers that we need. Now, you are a student. Where are you going to school?
Southern Career Institute, sir.
Okay, how long have you been going there?
Already 3 months.
Okay. So right now you're unemployed. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I got that
Go ahead.
going.
You don't have a part-time job or anything?
No, sir.
Okay, who's paying for your living?
There's this thing called Project Quest, and they're actually helping me out pay for school, and I also
Okay.
get paid for going.
All right, you gave us the names of 3 references who will always know where to find you, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, one of them I see there is your sister. All right. You are single, you have no children to support.
Correct, sir.
Okay, you have a 2016 Ford Focus. Who's paying for that?
It's already paid for, sir.
All right, very good. Okay. Ms. Buharin, now how do you say it?
Like that, you're saying
Okay,
it.
all right. Ms. Buharin, to the charge of driving while intoxicated, how do you plead, ma'am?
No contender, sir.
Okay. A nolo contendere, which I mentioned earlier, is considered a guilty plea, right? You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Right. This document in front of you now is called a plea agreement. That's the deal in writing. Has your name and under the case number. Then there's 2 boxes that are blank that will be filled out. The first box repeats your constitutional right to remain silent. The second box, that one will be marked and shows that you are a U.S. citizen. Now, the following section has 5 boxes stacked vertically. Next to each one is a separate statement concerning your rights and protections. Did you understand what you're checking off there on those 5 boxes?
Yes, sir.
All right. The next section says that you're charged with DWI. Scroll further. Then the question is, what is officially your plea to that charge, ma'am? And you see it there at the bottom. You're pleading nolo contendere, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, I am ordering you to appear within 7 days to provide your thumbprint on the different documents that are required by law for you to put a thumbprint on it. To the charge of DWI, based on your plea and the evidence, I find you guilty. You're sentenced to 6 months, Bexar County Jail. That's probated for a term of 12 months. That means the jail part is suspended for 12 months. You are fined $250. If you live up to 100% of the conditions of supervision, then the $250 will be forgiven. You will perform 48 hours of community service restitution. You will pay restitution to Joseph Drago, or Drago, D-R-A-G-O, in the amount of $3,000 if the damages are not paid for by your insurance. I suspect that did you have liability insurance?
I spoke to them and they said that it was covered, but they didn't elaborate further, sir.
Okay, well, your insurance, if you were paying for insurance, it should have covered it. And I'm sure it will, but you are responsible to see that that gets done.
Yes, sir.
You will in good faith enroll in and complete the DWI education program, the DWI Victim Impact Panel. You will submit to what's called a TAP evaluation and follow the recommendations. For 6 months, you'll have ignition interlock monitor placed on your vehicle. During those 6 months, you're not to drive any other vehicle other than yours that has ignition interlock installed. Is that understood?
Yes, sir.
That will be 6 consecutive months. The supervisory fee in your case will be the minimum, which is $25 a month.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Middleton, as an officer of the court, Did the gentleman that was in that vehicle, was there a person in the vehicle when it was damaged, when there was this wreck?
Let me remind myself, Your Honor. Yeah, I believe there was. It was a minor accident in a parking lot.
In a parking lot?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Ms. Buharin, you should be very, very careful about drinking and driving. You're fortunate that there wasn't a death or serious injury. How old are you, ma'am?
23, sir.
All right. Be aware that if you drink and drive and someone gets killed because of you, you can do 20 years in prison. That means that if that happened today, you could be in prison till you're 43 years old. The flower of your youth and vigor and vitality and all the joys of that youth would be spent locked up behind bars. That's some serious stuff. You be careful, okay?
I understand, sir. Thank you.
All right. Any questions, Ms. Buharin?
No, sir.
Ms. Middleton
No, Your Honor.
and Ms. Morgan?
Your Honor, Ms. Morgan was not responsible for negotiating this plea. I was.
Okay,
And
Mr.
I don't have any questions, Your Honor. I only have an observation that Bugarin is otherwise deferred eligible in this case. Deferred adjudication does not require an application. It only requires that the judge have the opinion that the best interests of society and the defendant would be served. So if the court decided to grant deferred adjudication in this case, state's not going to kick up a fuss about it, sir.
And of course, Your Honor, we would love deferred adjudication.
Mr. Edelman, as always, it is refreshing to have a prosecutor make such an observation, which obviously is a suggestion in a sense. The court will amend the record to indicate that I find there's sufficient evidence to find you guilty, Ms. Buharin, but I do not find you guilty. In fact, what I will do is I will grant you deferred adjudication instead. That deferred adjudication will be for 18 months. And what that means, ma'am, let me go over with you what deferred adjudication means.
Yes, sir.
It is a special kind of probation wherein, for one, you heard what I just did. You've not been found guilty. Instead, you're placed on a special supervision, a deferred adjudication is called. It's a postponement of conviction. And if you live up to 100%, and I mean that very literally, of the conditions, then the case will wind up being dismissed, and under Texas law, you are not convicted of this charge. Now, the danger, if you mess up and you fail or refuse to live up to 100%, then the state can ask me to give you official notice, bring you back in here, and if the evidence supports it, then I can enter an adjudication of guilt. Finding you guilty, then I can revoke your probation, and you have the full range of punishment to look at. A fine $0 to $2,000 and jail from 0 days to 180 days. Actually, under this circumstance, yes, no, the jail would be from a minimum 72 hours to 180 days.
Yes, sure.
Is that clear?
Yes, sir. I understand.
It is a very unique opportunity that you'll not get again. Clear?
Thank you so much, sir.
All right. And don't just thank me, there's somebody else to thank too. Okay. Ms. Middleton, see to it that everything gets signed up, cleared up. We'll do our side of it.
Yes, Your Honor.